Good afternoon and welcome to this FCSI panel session on industry trends, the outlook. Thank you for joining us for this session, which will last for approximately 30 to 40 minutes. I'm Michael Jones, editorial director of FCSI's Foodservice Consultant magazine. I have the great pleasure to be joined today by Andrea Clerici, global business director of Gruppo Cimbali. Andrea and I will be discussing some of the challenges and some of the key trends that are impacting the food service sector at the moment. We'll look at the subsequent impact on the design and function of food service operations, the role of innovation and how it's going to save labour, looking at improving efficiency, reducing pressure and helping well-being in kitchens, and finally we'll be looking at a bit of future gazing and seeing how the sector will develop, and very, very delighted to have Andrea with me. Thank you. Andrea, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and about your business?
Totally. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Andrea Clerici, obviously Italian. I'm the Global Business Director for Gruppo Cimbali, meaning that I'm responsible for the sales and marketing activities of Gruppo Cimbali around the world. I joined Gruppo Cimbali 2.5 years ago in this position. Prior to that, I developed my experience in automotive business, working for an Italian company for 20 years, spending 16 of which abroad. So my experience spans from Asia to North America, including also Australia, where I had the possibility to run the subsidiaries of these groups or being in charge of the commercial operations. I'm graduated in engineering here in Milan.
Fantastic. Andrea, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you again.
So let's focus initially perhaps on some of the, let's first of all, before we get to the solutions out there, let's look at the challenges. Let's look at some of the primary challenges that you see are impacting food service. Obviously, you're seeing it from the perspective of the coffee side of the industry, but generally, let's look about some of the broader challenges that the industry is facing right now and the operators are having to deal with, some of the operators you're working with as well. Yeah. What would you say are some of the biggest obstacles that operators are experiencing at the moment?
I'd say that probably one of the biggest obstacles, one of the biggest issues is retention of manpower, because that is driven by obviously the increase of labor cost, and especially after the pandemic, we have experiencing, and most of our business partners have been experiencing a very high levels of turnover, meaning staff, what we call baristas in our particular case, are very likely to change their job much more frequently than what used to happen before. And this leads to an extreme problem for the operators related to the retention, which is the investment in the training of the people. Because to run a coffee machine in the best possible way, as probably any other equipment, needs training. And if you know or if you fear that that person, that operator might resign in 4 to 6 months, which is the current average we are seeing pretty much in the Western world, this gives a lot of thoughts, a lot of concerns to the investor or to the business owner in terms of which kind of equipment he should bring into his kitchen in light of the cost of the training.
So challenges there though. So we have the retention issue, we have very high labor costs, we have high levels of turnover. This is, however, a very resilient sector, as we know. Food service is always changing, hospitality is always changing. Do you see a lot of change as also being quite healthy? Can change be good? You get the expression that diamonds are formed under pressure, right? How much is there a balance between evolving the industry is a good thing and it's healthy, and this is actually a worrying development for our sector, and change is not too much change too quickly is not a good thing?
Absolutely. As we say, in every challenge there's also an opportunity.
Right.
So going back to the first question as well, let's do not forget the increased cost of energy, which leads to the opportunities, because thanks to or due to these challenges, one of the major benefits we have seen speaking of the industry, and in particular of the coffee machines, is a higher attention towards sustainability, a higher attention towards energy saving, a higher attention towards using higher quality materials in order to guarantee a better usage of the machine, lower frequency of maintenance, and at the end of the day also an easier setup of the unit, so improved user experiences that allow also non-skilled operators to get the best out of the unit. So to summarize, we might say that the resiliency of the industry has led to better development of the equipment, both in terms of quality as well as in terms of user experience, easiness to use of the equipment.
Andrea, are there any specific types of technology that you feel have made a particularly strong impact, a big impact, in terms of alleviating that pressure on operators?
Yeah, probably the first that comes to my mind is related to digitalization. Mm-hmm. So how much of the digital environment, the IoT, and the data analysis has become relevant in the kitchen industry. Nowadays, even in kitchens, all equipments are connected, and that allows both the operators as well as the manufacturers to guarantee better setups of the unit, easier setups of the unit, but also better maintenance of the unit. This is extremely important because it allows quicker services, reducing the downtimes of the equipment, allowing a better exploitation of the potential of the unit.
Andrea, you mentioned there that a lot of operators are indeed investing in better equipment and more sustainable equipment, more energy efficient equipment. Of course, you have maybe a higher capex cost with that, but also a return on investment as well. What would you say are the ultimate benefits of properly investing in good equipment and investing in the kind of equipment that's going to make your operation ultimately more efficient in the long term? What are the benefits of that?
There are many, and probably the first that comes to my mind is the following: is the possibility for the business owner, the investor, to have a better visibility of where he's putting his money or her money. Because this leads to the concept of total cost of ownership. Right. More and more the industry is moving in that direction. The big chains are already there. They do not ask the cost of the equipment anymore. They discuss the total cost of ownership. Equipment, maintenance, spare parts, and so on and so forth. But also smaller operators are starting to adopt that mentality because they see the better value in the equipment. They might even accept a higher price if they see the benefit on the medium to long term. So in a nutshell, probably the answer is, the benefit is that there is a higher level of attention to the investments. So the investments are going where the return is going to be more stable in the medium to long term.
And do you feel that operators are getting that they understand that it's worth listening to equipment manufacturers like yourself and understanding, looking at the virtues and the values of a longer term investment and investing properly in equipment? Is the message getting through?
It is starting to come true, definitely. As I mentioned, big chains, big groups are already working in that way. And that puts a lot of challenges also to ourselves. Right. We had also to adapt our business model in order to be more responsive and more not only cost competitive, but more comprehensive in the answers we were providing to the chains, and then trickles down also to smaller operators who slowly but surely are going in that direction.
Great, good to hear, thank you. You mentioned earlier about a massive trend towards digitalization across all aspects of food service and hospitality. How do you feel something like automation will continue to plug that gap and provide the missing link to that kind of labour issue that we highlighted right at the top, and you talked about that, high turnover, staff retention issue. How is automation filling that gap, particularly in your part of the world?
It's playing a pivotal role, a dominant role. As Cimbali Group, we are, if not the only, one of the very few manufacturers offering all the categories of products, from traditional to fully automatic grinders. And more across all geographies, we see that the focus on fully automatic machines is growing, somehow at detriment of the traditional units. Also because the level of automatization has reached a combined level in terms of quality in the cup, in terms of quality of the output, that is very much comparable with the level of a traditional unit. So you do not have any longer the trade-off between automatization and quality. You are slowly getting the both of them, and so the trend is clearly in the direction of the automatization with a shift to fully automatic machines.
I guess two parts to this question then. Are you surprised that the rate at which automation has taken off, in particularly with coffee machines? Has that surprised you? Has any of it been impacted by the pandemic? So in terms of where we are, kind of 3 years on from when that started, and also, do you think this trend is going to keep increasing towards automation? Is it not going away? Is it going to tail off? Where do you feel it is on the kind of journey of automation?
I'll start from the latter, and I would say that it will definitely continue. I mean, our feeling is that it will definitely continue. If anything, it might even accelerate and get there more and more. Also because we see that the market is changing. We see more and more bigger groups getting even bigger, acquiring independents or smaller groups. And the bigger the group, the more focus on automatization and standardization. Back to the pandemic, yes, that has definitely played an important role. It has accelerated because through different ways, the industry has understood or had been forced to reduce that human interaction. All around the world, we were forced to reduce that interaction. Therefore, not to stop the whole chain, we had to look for alternative solutions that were driven by automatization.
We hear a lot and we write a lot about keep finding that balance between human creativity and people in hospitality serving great coffee and great food with a smile on their face, and getting that balance of getting enough automation to pick up the deficit. Do you feel like that the industry is getting that balance right, that it's still people at the heart of food service, but also technology providing that missing link? Is the balance there, or does it need to recalibrate slightly?
It's an interesting one, and I'd say that it probably depends by the different segments we are looking at. What we call by segments are the different ways in which the equipment is used. Yeah. So an office versus a quick service restaurant or a 5-star hotel. And we believe at Cimbali Group that anyway, the human component of it is always going to be an integral part of the industry. We'll need to find better balance between automatization and the human component in certain segments, in certain applications. Probably the automatization side will become dominant. In others, the human part will continue to remain the primary one. So what I'm trying to say is that we are going towards a pretty scattered approach where it will be a matrix of how the segments and these two components are going to be combined.
Great answer, thank you. We write a lot about efficiency in a hospitality operation and in a food service operation, and production throughput and workflow and things like that. What do you think are the most significant factors in making an operator efficient, or a food service operation or a coffee station efficient? What really impacts those things?
I would say it's an interesting one, because while you were asking, I was thinking at some of the touch points we have in our business, so major chains, and all of them have different approaches. So to start with, I'd like to point out the fact that there is no common answer to this.
Yeah.
We are still in a kind of transition phase, but probably if I may pick one common element, that's probably time. So which connects time management, which connects to the elements we said earlier, retention of the labor, increasing costs. So major operators are looking at streamlining their operations, their activities at the bar, at the counter. So they are asking for more automatized solutions that are going to help the operator to be more time effective. In another way, having a higher coffee output per minute, and more automatized, so while they are doing, or they are brewing the coffee, the unit is brewing the coffee, they can take care of something else, and so optimize their average output and make sure that they maximize the speed at which they are serving the customers. There is one chain who told us, we have a plan to serve a single customer within a certain amount of seconds, the moment he walks through the door and the moment he gets served with his sandwich and his drinks. So this is the direction.
Very interesting. You mentioned a few moments ago the kind of the role that sustainability continues to play, and how it's going to. I'd like to get your take on how much you think it's going to dominate conversations in this industry for the next decade or so. We're hearing clearly a lot about the climate crisis, climate change. We're hearing a hell of a lot about energy efficiency and soaring energy costs, and these are all impacting on customers. They're all impacting on operators. Customers, particularly younger generation, are very, very invested in sustainability and how companies are good companies and behave sustainably. How do you think that's going to, will that messaging change? How do you think the industry will, react to sustainability or become more sustainable? What's your view on that?
This is extremely complicated, because the ground factor, the undeniable factor, is the fact that the whole industry is moving in that direction. It is a must to, allow me to say, it is not a must to become sustainable. It is a must to deal with sustainability. What I mean is that different companies might have different targets. We, as Cimbali Group, picked our priorities. We, as Cimbali Group, are developing our sustainability report. It will be the second year, and we are working towards a sustainability not only report, but balance sheet, to call it. It will take a few more years. We see that most of our stakeholders in the industry are working in that direction as well, in different ways. So there is no common direction towards sustainability, but there is a clear focus around that. The coffee industry is probably one of the industries that is affected the most throughout its whole value, from the plantation to the enjoyment of the coffee in the cup. So with as a coffee machine manufacturers, we believe we can impact probably 10% of the total sustainability index through the whole chain, but with the roasters, with the people managing the plantation, we are all starting to get more involved and understanding which are the priorities in order to improve. It's a process.
It's a process, but why does it matter to you that you behave as a good company, as a responsible company that acts sustainability? Why is that important?
Well, first of all, we feel it's an ethical,
Yes.
it's an ethical kind of requirement towards the future, first of all, but also towards the present, towards the people who are working in this industry. In our booth, and I would welcome each and every one of you to visit us, we have dedicated a space with a specific video called the 2,000 hands that are working throughout the whole flow, from the plantation to the enjoyment of the cup. We kind of use this symbolic view of 2,000 hands being involved into the whole process. This gives you the feeling of how much is related to the extraction of 1 cup of espresso. There is a lot. Well, we need to take care of that. Also because we do not need to forget that we are privileged in the position we experience within this chain. There are many steps of this chain, and I'm referring mainly to the picking, the growing of the coffee, that for many different reasons are way less privileged than what we are. We need to take care of them as well.
I love that story. I'm looking forward to seeing that video. So this is on the Cimbali stand.
It is,
okay.
in the middle of the stand,
Wonderful.
as important as it is.
Sounds good. I think it's very obvious to me. You seem very positive about the industry and its direction. Clearly, as you mentioned at the start of the interview, the whole industry is beset by a number of challenges. A lot of which we could put on the labour issue. But why do you remain optimistic? Why do you think the future is still bright, not just for the coffee industry, but for food service generally? Why do you feel positive that this industry will be in good shape by the end of this decade?
I'd say that, as you mentioned, it's a resilient industry. Everyone needs to eat and drink, so that alone is one of probably less serious part of the answer, but it is part of the answer. And I have to say that in our view, we see that across the globe there is a higher attention to the quality of the food service. So food service not only as a necessity, but also as a way of enjoyment, of also going back to that kind of social relationship throughout its different forms. So the whole industry is looking more at the quality rather than at the quantity. So these are few drivers that gives us confidence towards the sustainable growth of this industry.
Love that. Thank you, Andrea. A final question for me then. Can you talk about, we mentioned there about the kind of towards the end of the decade or the rest of this decade, what other changes or what significant changes do you think we're going to continue to see? We talked about some of the big issues here, labour, automization, I guess sustainability and its impact is going to have. What are the big impacts we're going to continue to see, and how's that going to impact baristas? How's it going to impact coffee? How's it going to impact food service generally? What are those big challenges that are going to continue to hit us?
For sure, automatization and digitalization is there to stay.
Yes.
As we mentioned, that will continue. That will also develop, and that will take different shapes, probably, depending also how the industry will change, especially in terms of retail, because probably one of the trends that will be led by automatization will be more and more the capacity of the industry to answer in real time to specific requirements of the customer. So what I'm trying to say is that through automatization, the industry might be able to address specific requests, specific recipes, if you wish, that now cannot be answered in such a short time. So now there is a fixed menu. Probably menus will become more flexible in real time thanks to a higher degree of automatization. Still, we believe human intervention, especially when it comes to coffee, will remain central.
Fantastic. Great to hear. Would anyone in the audience like to put a question to Andrea at all? Do you have any questions? Michael? You have a microphone coming, Michael.
So thank you very much for this very interesting input. As I was walking around in the last 2 days, you talked to various manufacturers and, you know, like, what is new on the horizon? And then somebody told me about a story that we are not short of seeing a coffee machine, which can have 4 grinders and 4 different milk containers. Are we going to, with the coffee, in the world of the coffee equipment, are we going to go in the direction of convection ovens, where we are building machines which we are maybe not even capable of operating anymore? And is a little sarcasm in my words, but it's on purpose.
I see where you're coming from,
That's
and
a
probably
tough question, Andrea. That's a tough question.
Can handle it.
But probably the best way to answer is making a comparison to this kind of stuff that each and every one of us has in his or her pocket.
Yeah.
How much are we able to use out of the potential of these tools? So, and the list of examples could go on, right? I think that the risk is there. The risk is there, but the risk related to the fact that we might over-engineer our solutions is definitely there. It will then be it will be a responsibility of the manufacturers throughout a close relationship with their business partners not to waste solutions. So what I'm trying to say here is, tapping in our own experience, we have changed our business model, or we are starting to change our business model, engaging our major stakeholders and business partners more and more in defining the requirements of the future together, in order to avoid to create something like this, and again, nothing, but something over-engineered that then you use only at 10%.
Yes.
That would then be contradicting everything we said in terms of sustainability, in terms of labor, in terms of energy saving, and so on and so forth. So it's a mutual challenge for the whole industry to always continue to increase, because that's never going to stop, but increase in a experienced way, in a way that is useful, not from a marketing standpoint, but from a practical standpoint.
It's a great answer. Roberto?
Yes. In the past, when we're looking at a normal manual machine, there was 4 rules. So the machine, the grinding, the mixture, and of course the manpower. So if you look at that, let's say that we have a division on 25% each. Now, because if you look at it in a different way, you say the mixture, it depends also on the man, because what you put in is what you're getting out. Yeah. And if you put, rubbish inside, you get rubbish out. And if you look at the brand, well, this machine is not working. On the other hand, also the grinding is a question of manpower. Yes. And again, the manpower as a hand talking, it's also the eyes. You see what's coming out, and you can correct what is coming out. So considering that, we have 75% of manpower, which was important on good coffee. Now, my question is, how far does automation go to replace the 75%?
It's a very interesting angle. I'd say automation has gone a long way, and it will continue to improve. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, there are applications where we can accept, or the industry is accepting, that automatization is going further ahead at detriment of this manual control. Think about a lounge, for example, where it's more about speed, not so much about the quality. Nevertheless, the quality of the drinks has been improving steadily because the quality of the automation of the unit has allowed us, manufacturers, roasters, operators, to improve the settings and still give a better control cycles. Meaning, even if there's no human intervention, automation technology has given us tools, and I will elaborate in a second, to improve the quality in cap throughout an automatic improvement of machine. For example, we are implementing sensors in our units that are controlling the quality of the coffee, the quality of the coffee beans, okay? Just to monitor the aging of the coffee beans. You know that after 3-4 days, you want to get. So we have a sensor there that is going to provide an alert saying your coffee is 25, 50, 75% close to getting to getting acid. You don't need it anymore. We've got sensors that are controlling the output of the coffee, that are controlling the output of the milk, of the foam of the milk, and these are electric sensors, based on algorithms, artificial intelligence related algorithms, are capable of communicating to the unit, to the group, changing certain settings in order to adapt the settings in order to guarantee a stable and high level quality in the cap. This is one side of the solution. The other side of the solution is your specialty coffee related world where you don't even want to propose anything as such. It's going to be the barista in control of everything, from the blend to the grinding to also the pressing of the coffee, because he's got full control of everything. So coming from an automotive background, I always make the comparison with high performance cars. The industry is going in a way or in a direction where you will have your 1000 horsepower car. You just want to show off, or you want to have peace of mind, you put all the traction control, stability controls on, and you just enjoy the drive. No concern. The car is doing it all, giving you the full enjoyment of the drive. You want to have full control, drifting and everything else, turn them off, you are in control.
Last question. In the past, we said that 24 seconds is the right time for a good Italian espresso. This was a formula, just say. And you said also that you get pressure to make it shorter because we need to have a certain time to when it's coming in to the time when it's served. So how far it's going? How far do we shorten this time in disadvantage of quality?
Absolutely.
Good question.
Good question, and thank you for bringing it up because I was not clear enough. The 24 seconds plus minus are incompressible. Incompressible is that they cannot be changed.
Right,
you
right.
cannot compress them.
Yep.
You cannot change them. Okay? What I was referring to are the seconds related to the setup of the unit, the second related to the grinding, the seconds relating to the temping, and so on and so forth. But the 24 seconds, I want to keep my job, so I don't question the 24 seconds.
That's sacred, right?
Did you think then about some face recognizing that when this guy is coming in, he knows which coffee he wants,
Facial
and he
recognition.
shortened the time to the point?
Spot on. There is a chain who has requested us to work in that direction. Not to the extent of a facial control. We might go in that direction, but to the point of subscription programs where you can plan what is your favorite recipe. So Andrea
ID
likes
recognition.
a coffee that is extracted in 28 rather than in 24, or he likes the lungo rather than the espresso, so that the moment I walk through the door, I'm recognized, my coffee getting brewed. So the moment I walk from the door to the counter, my coffee is ready and it's already paid. So I just grab the coffee and walk out. That's probably
That's great.
45 seconds in all. That's the vision.
That strikes me as being very interesting, that a lot of people think about digitalization and automation as making things very generic. That can make things very personalized.
Totally, absolutely. So it's automatization at the service of personalization.
Yeah, very
because
interesting.
my recipe is different than yours, different than his.
Yeah.
And this is the market asking us. This is the market requesting that. And it's not easy, but the direction is that one.
Interesting. Any more questions for Andrea? I should say, of course, that the gentleman on my right is not Enrico, it's Andrea. And any more questions for him at all? No? In that case, that is all the time we have for Andrea from Cimbali. Thank you so much for your time, your exceptional insight. Please give Andrea a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.